Hey runners, in this video today, I'm going to teach you how to properly perform the glute bridge. Hey guys, John here with JK Conditioning with PodiumRunner.com, and in this video today, I'm going to teach you 3 variations of the glute bridge, which is a great exercise for strengthening your gluteus maximus. So the glute bridge exercise is a very common exercise given to runners to strengthen their glutes. It's commonly prescribed by physiotherapists if you have lateral knee pain, IT band issues. The glutes are just not a muscle that runners develop when they run, so that's why we need to strengthen the muscles in the glutes and in the hips in the gym. Unfortunately though, every single runner that comes to me and says, yeah, I learned this exercise online, or I learned this exercise from my physiotherapist, unfortunately, when they demo the exercise for me in the gym, it's performed incorrectly. So that's why I decided to write this article and make this video for runners like you who actually need to learn how to activate their glutes and do the glute bridge correctly. So the first step in learning how to activate your glutes in a glute bridge is to have body awareness to learn how to rotate your pelvis. This can be a little bit tricky to learn, but the easiest way to learn how to rotate your pelvis is to go on all fours and form a tabletop. So what you want to do here is put your hips right over your knees and your shoulders right over your wrists and create a flat back position. So this is the tabletop position. The next thing you want to do is you want to round your back up towards the ceiling like you're stretching like a cat. And what I want you to do is tuck your hips in and round your back even more. In this posture, just to help you feel that rounded back position, you can bring your chin to your chest. So in this cat stretch position, you'll notice that your hips are tucked in, and the coaching cue here is butt in. So what you just did here is that you rotated your pelvis backwards to tuck your hips in. You'll notice that your tailbone tucked underneath you, and that results in more of a rounded lower back position. If you reverse the motion and go and drop your ribs towards the floor and create a bigger arch, what I want you to think here is I want you to rotate your pelvis out or push your butt out, and notice that your tailbone moves in a position upwards towards the ceiling. To emphasize the arch in the lower back, you can then now bring your head up towards the ceiling. This posture here, what you just did is that you rotated your pelvis anteriorly or forward to create a bigger arch in your lower back. The coaching cues that we use in the gym to make this easier is butt in or butt out. So when you rotate your pelvis to go butt in, you're tucking in your pelvis. When you rotate your pelvis to go butt out, you're tipping your pelvis forward. So do this several times to learn what you're actually doing to move your pelvis through this range of motion. The next thing you can do to further learn this exercise is to lie on your back and to do the exact same thing. So now lie on your back, put your feet flat on the floor and bend your knees. The next thing you should do is go through the same motion of tucking your butt in and then pushing your butt out. Notice that when you go butt in, when you lie on your low back will approach the floor. So this is a flattening of the lower back. When you go butt out while you're lying down on your back, your lower back will arch off the floor and you'll create more of a space or a gap between your lower back and the floor. Do this several times to learn again what you're doing to rotate your pelvis in or out, or to rotate your pelvis forward or backward, and lastly to rotate your pelvis so that you go either bum in or bum out. So now that we figured out how to rotate the pelvis, the next step is to do the glute bridge correctly. So to further make you feel like you're using your glutes and your abductors, so the lateral hip muscles, I'm going to get you to lie on your back with a band around the lower part of your thighs just above your knees. We have to be picky here where we put the feet. If you put your feet too close to your body, when you do the bridge, you're going to feel more of your quads. If you put your feet a little too far away from your hips and you do the bridge, you might include too much hamstrings or groin in the exercise. So the glute bridge exercise is an exercise that focuses on the glutes and should only target the glutes. If you're out of position, you will include other muscles that we don't want to include in this exercise. So now that you've found where your feet should go, your knees are bent, you have the band around the lower part of your thighs, the next thing is just relax your upper body, tuck your chin in, and put your hands on the floor so that your palms face up. The next thing I want you to do is rotate your pelvis to go butt in, now that you know how to do that, And then what I want you to do is push through your heels to lift your hips in the air. The position I want you to lift to is where you form a straight line from your knees to your shoulders. So your hips should come high enough that you get that straight line, but not too high that you start to arch your lower back. So this is the most common mistake that runners sort of show when they demo a glute bridge to me. They go too high and their arch in their lower back is too much, which means they're including too much low back extensors in the movement. So what I want you to do here is exaggerate the butt in position and actually don't go as high as you might used to be going. This will make sense because you'll actually feel your glutes. So in this position with your hips sort of exaggeratedly tucked in, if you look down at your stomach, you'll notice that it's flat. The next movement is to push your knees out into the band, and I want you to think turn your knees out into the band to activate the lateral glute muscles. In this posture here, I want you to clench your glutes. I want you to feel like you're not too high, but you're high enough that you can feel your glutes. If it helps, you can take your hands and touch your glutes to make sure that they're engaged and they're contracted. This position is the glute bridge. So what you'll notice here is that your glutes are engaged, but your hamstrings, your groin, your quads, and your lower back are not strongly involved in this position. The next thing that we like to do at JK Conditioning is we like to do a few dynamic movements before we rest. So what I'll get you to do is hold this glute bridge for 10 seconds. The next thing I want you to do is, with your hips staying tucked in the elevated position off the floor, is to turn your knees in and out 10 times. So this dynamic movement will activate and fatigue the lateral glute muscles. And then after you finish 10 open close with the knees, what I want you to do is keep your knees open and then roll your spine down one vertebrae at a time to lower your hips to the floor. Once the back of your shorts or the back of your tights just touch the floor, lift back up to the height that gives you the best glute squeeze. Do this 10 times while you keep your knees open. So at JK Conditioning, we call this glute bridge 10-10-10. A 10-second hold, 10 open close, and then 10 up and down. In each set, I want you to try doing this 3 times in a row. So that means 3 rounds of 10-10-10 before taking a rest. This is very fatiguing, and if you're doing it right, your glutes will be on fire. A good set amount to do is 3 to 4 sets per session. So the next version of the glute bridge that I want to teach you is the hip thrust. So this is a shoulder elevated glute bridge while your feet remain on the floor. So we can call this a shoulder elevated glute bridge or just the hip thrust. So what you need here is you need an exercise bench, or if you are just at home and you don't have an exercise bench, you can use an ottoman or you can use the front of your couch. What I want you to do here is set up on the edge of the elevated surface. So you're gonna put your shoulders and your shoulder blades on the edge of the surface with your feet on the floor flat. This time your feet are gonna be a little bit wider than in the glute bridge. They're gonna be about shoulder width apart, whereas in the glute bridge, they should be roughly hip width apart. The next thing I want you to do is tuck your hips in. So you're gonna go bum in, push through your heels, and lift your hips up in the air to form a straight line again from the knees to the shoulders. Again, don't go too high, because what you'll do is you'll just overarch your back and you'll get out of the glutes. So what we need to do is we need to connect with the glutes and only go so high that we can actually feel them. It will help if you can keep the band around your knees for this exercise as well. So when you lift your hips up, turn your knees out into the band to further activate the lateral glute muscles in addition to the glute max during the hip thrust. To allow for better movement on the bench or the elevated surface, make sure that you allow your body to pivot on top of the elevated surface as your hips come up, and then pivot down off the corner of the bench or the elevated surface as your hips go down. Because this exercise allows for more range of motion, there's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing, you can load this exercise. So if you have a barbell, you can place it across your hips. If you have a band that you can anchor on either side, you can go through the greater range of motion and activate your glutes really well with weight if you want. The bad thing about this movement or this exercise is that it allows for more movement, which means more room to make mistakes. So again, be very cognizant that your lower back shape doesn't change throughout the hip thrust, and it remains neutral as you move through your hips, and you don't go too high so that you don't involve too much lower back extensors. With the hip thrust, I like to do higher reps just to give runners enough reps to practice the movement. So in this workout, I'll suggest 15 to 20 reps for 3 to 4 sets. And the last version of a glute bridge that you can do is now, you guessed it, a shoulders on the floor, but now a foot elevated bridge. So this exercise, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make it a teeny bit more running specific, and you're gonna do a one-legged, foot elevated glute bridge. So follow me here. All you need now, again, is a elevated surface, such as a bench or a ottoman or the front of your couch. So now lie down in front of your elevated surface, placing one foot on the edge of the elevated surface, again with your hands on the floor and your chin tucked in on the floor. The other leg is just going to be held in the air. What I'd like you to do is tuck your hips in, push your foot onto the elevated surface right on the corner to lift your hips up. With this range of motion, if you go too high, again, you'll go into your lower back. So you'll notice some continuity here between the exercises and how you do a glute bridge, which is why we're including these 3 variations into one video. Don't go too high, and make sure you tuck your hips in at the top. Do that for every glute bridge and you will feel your glutes at the top, I promise. When you lift your hips up in this exercise, form a straight line at the top, again, between your shoulders and your knee. Rotate your pelvis, exaggerate that bum in position, and flex your glute for 10 seconds. I want you to hold this and be aware of what you're doing to maintain this height in the glute bridge. The next thing I want you to do is to roll your back down, bring your hips to the floor. Again, once your pants or your tights just touch the floor, lift back up, and now do 10 dynamic reps. Don't move through a range of motion that involves your lower back. With this foot elevated version, you will feel a little bit more involvement of the hamstring, the proximal hamstring, to help extend the hips up as you lift your hips up. So that is okay, so just let that happen. But at the top of the movement, make sure that you contract and you activate your glutes to lock out that hip extended position. After you go up and down 10 times, hold the top of the bridge for 8 seconds, then do 8 dynamic reps. Then hold the top of the bridge for 6 seconds and then do 6 dynamic reps. You can see the pattern. What you're gonna do is you're gonna work your way down from 10 all the way to 2. After a small rest, you can switch legs, and in a workout, I would suggest you do 3 to 4 sets. So there you go, guys. Those are 3 glute bridge variations that I recommend to runners to strengthen their glutes. 2 key takeaway messages here. Learn how to rotate your pelvis, improve your body awareness so that you can learn what bum in feels like. There are other exercises where butt out is going to be a coaching cue, such as a deadlift, but we can talk about that in another video. But in this video, bum in is what you want to do, and you want to make sure you feel the glutes when you're doing your bridges. If you feel like you're using your lower back, you probably are. If you feel like you're using your groin too much, or your hamstrings too much, or your thighs are getting tired when you're doing a glute bridge, something is wrong and you have to change your setup. If this is your first time here, my name is John and I've been a personal trainer for over 15 years and I'm a regular contributor to podiumrunner.com. I suggest you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to keep up to date with all our latest fitness videos. We make a ton of videos dedicated to runners like you and helping you become a stronger version of yourself. We are a newer channel and I would appreciate all viewers of this video to subscribe to keep up to date and to boost our numbers, because we're only young and we're still growing. So thanks again for watching, guys. I appreciate your time. Please like and share the video if you found it valuable, and we'll see you in the next video.